I remember back in the early 80s, there was this one Hmong family that had a drive-by because their sons were gangsters. Everybody was okay except for the youngest boy in the family, maybe around 8 or 9 at the time. He was taking a nap on the sofa when the shooting occurred and was unfortunately struck by a stray bullet. When he was alive, he loved watching Bruce Lee movies. The night after they buried the youngest boy, he came back and tried to put on the VCR. They said that first night, they'd hear someone messing with the VCR and the TV. This would happen after everybody already went to bed. It kept on going for a whole week until finally, one night, the mom left the TV on with one of Bruce Lee's film playing on it. After that, the son came to her in a dream and told her thanks and that he loved her very much. Ever since then, it had stopped. Man, Hmong gang life was crazy back then. It's still even crazy now, still fighting at Hmong New Year's every year. Back in Sacramento, there was a lot of Hmong gang-related murders. I remember back then in the late 80s, one of my uncle's friend was killed in a drive-by shooting. A couple of days later, I was hanging out with my uncle and his buddies and overheard a conversation. They were talking about an incident that happened 2 nights after his friend's passing. It wasn't a retaliation plan or anything though. This is what happened. My uncle and his buddies were sitting outside one of their other friends' front porch, just talking about the good times and the bad. Everyone was drinking a lot that night and kept on pouring some for his dead friend. Then, one of them was smoking a joint and kept on saying how much he misses his friend already. That's when, all of a sudden, the small little bush in front of their house started shaking by itself. Everybody heard it and saw it and stood up, staring at the bush. Then that one friend that was holding the joint put it down on the porch and said, "Hey friend, if it's you, come over here and have a puff with me." To everyone's amazement, the bush stopped shaking. The joint laying down on the porch started burning up like someone was puffing it. They watched in amazement for a while and then went inside, except for the dude that laid down the joint. He said that after everyone left, it stopped burning and the bush started shaking again. I think that's his friend's way of saying that he's there with them and that he's finally leaving now. At first, I thought that perhaps they were just high and drunk, but then again, on second thoughts, they all saw it. One of my cousins shared one of his real experiences with me. It goes like so. One night, my cousin and 2 of his friends were staying up late playing card games and drinking beers at his place. It wasn't until 2 o'clock in the morning when the phone rang. My cousin told one of his friends to go and pick it up and answer because he was right next to it. His friend chatted on the phone for a while, hung up and smiled at them and replied, "Let's go get some," and ran out the front door. My cousin and his other buddy hurried up and followed him into his car. Curious, they asked, "Where are we going?" "Don't worry, some girls just want to kick it, if you know what I mean," his friend blurted out all excited. When they arrived at a bridge in a small town, 2 beautiful Hmong girls were at the other edge of it waiting and waving at them. The girls got in the backseat with the other friend and he started making out with one of them. My cousin was sitting on the passenger side, so he just kept on looking back and talking to one of the other girls. He told me at the time that he was thinking that she was so drop-dead gorgeous. He also told me that he was considering her as his future wife. All of a sudden, the guy driving the car started asking the girls where they wanted to go, and he started driving kind of different, almost like he was shaking. The girls told him to just keep on driving straight ahead, but instead, he turned the car around really quickly and jerked everyone inside the vehicle. The girls started yelling at him to pull over, so he stopped the car and the girls got out all angry. My cousin and the friend in the back was like, "Dude, what's up?" But the driver did not respond. The next morning, they all had a little talk about the night before. The driver said that when he looked into the rear-view mirror right after the girls got into the car with them, he saw his friend making out with a rotten corpse in the back seat. My cousin then realized, how did those two girls get my house's phone number? And why are they at the bridge? And how did we fall for it? Then the other friend that was sitting at the back with the girls said that he did kind of wonder why her breath stank so much when he kisses her, but it was... Hold up. He wondered why her breath stank so much, but he was so in the mood that he didn't mind it at the time. That's a little pathetic, to be honest. Anyways, the driver added to his side of the story that after he saw their true selves, he was very afraid. When the girls told him to continue straight on the road, he realized right there and then that straight ahead is a very big Hmong cemetery and funeral home in that area. That was why he did a sharp U-turn, because he was afraid at that point. When the girls got mad and they had dropped the girls off, he looked back into the rearview mirror to see if the girls had followed them, only for them to be seen nowhere in sight. Too frightened from the story, they told their parents about it. Firstly, all the elders yelled at them for being so stupid, picking up girls in the middle of a bridge at 2 in the morning. But then afterwards, the parents comforted them and planned a shaman ceremony as soon as possible. The shaman said that the two Hmong girls were assaulted and murdered near the bridge by a bunch of Hmong gang members not too long ago. The girls' souls tried to go back home to their family but were lost and could not find their way. The shaman also couldn't pinpoint why the girls called them. He said that it was possibly because they were drunk and they were vulnerable and the girls had spotted them, and that's how they found them somehow, alright? I don't really know. He also added that the Hmong girls were bored and they needed some company, so it just so happened that my cousin and his friends were the best choices. It was very lucky for them that the girls got mad and they changed their minds, so my cousin and his buddies were okay. But for many weeks, my cousin's friend's car stank like a decaying animal. This story's crazy, man. I don't even know what to say. A woman and her family had just moved into a new house. She couldn't sleep very well because it was still a bit awkward living there, and she needed time to get used to the place. After she put her kids to bed and her husband went to bed as well, she went to work on her computer in the living room. It began to get really late, but she still wasn't tired. Her back was turned to the living room where she had set up her desk, and she heard a child's laughter, very quiet though, coming from the hallway behind her. She looked around and saw a shadow slip through the hallway. The mother thought that it was her daughter that had woken up. She called out her daughter's name but did not get a reply. So she got up from her desk and went into the hallway but still did not see anything. She had assumed that her daughter had ran into her room, which made her somewhat angry because her daughter was supposed to be sleeping. She went into her daughter's bedroom and opened the door, expecting to see her awake. But to her surprise, she was fast asleep. This woman stood there staring at her daughter for a few minutes and then went back into the living room. As soon as she sat down, she heard the laughter again. She turned off her computer and went to bed, too freaked out by the laughter. Interested in sharing your stories? Submit them to HmongChronicles@gmail.com or in the description below. Here is the next story. Thank you. Here's another true story. About 8 years ago, my husband's grandma and grandpa went from Minnesota to Wisconsin for the Green Bay New Year. On their way back, his grandparents had stopped at a rest stop. Unfortunately, tragedy struck, and his grandma passed away in the bathroom. The night before her funeral, everybody was at the place getting things ready for the big day. The next morning, the funeral director pulled my husband's uncle into the office and told him that last night, when everyone left, the funeral director went to check if there was anyone around and saw the lady in the coffin washing her hands in the bathroom. He got so scared, he went to get his partner and they both went to check the coffin, and the lady was gone. They then went back into the bathroom, but there was no one there either. After this, they looked everywhere, and when they came back to the room where the coffin was, there she was, laying inside of her coffin. That morning, when the funeral director and his office people came into the funeral home, the place was littered with food. They were so scared that after that funeral, they closed down the funeral home. There's a story floating around in the family that when the grandma was married to her first husband, he loved her so much that when he came back from the war, he bought her this gold necklace. Shortly after that, he passed away. She had told her kids from that marriage that when she dies, she wants to be buried with that necklace. This is so that she can go and find her first husband. But my husband's family would not allow her to be buried with a necklace due to Hmong traditions. So I think that's why she was angry and did what she did. Here's another story for you guys out there. When my grandma passed away, my aunt had her boyfriend come over to her house because she was kind of scared. While they were laying in bed, something scratched my aunt's back. She said it felt like a hand scratching her, so she told her boyfriend about it. I guess to calm her down, he told her at first that it was him that had scratched her back, but he didn't realize that he was holding her hand. They both got really scared. And then a month after my grandma had passed away, my aunt was in her room when she felt a cold breeze, and she felt like someone was sitting next to her. She said that she felt all the hairs on the back of her neck stand and she was cold. She told her mother that if it was her, for her to not scare her like this. She kept begging her mother to not scare her anymore and that she has already passed away. Then, all of a sudden, there was this loud noise as if someone had jumped off her dresser and walked out her door, slamming the bedroom door. My aunt figured that it was my grandma and she was upset with her. After this, my aunt had no more experiences. There was this guy named Alex, and he was on his way to help his girlfriend's brother paint their house in Hastings, Minnesota. It was during winter and his car couldn't get past this one ditch, so he got out and started walking towards the house. All the lights were on and the door was unlocked, so he went inside the house. He started calling out to the guys to let them know that he was there, but no one answered. He thought that they were playing a trick on him, so he started walking around the house and went upstairs. No one was home. He got freaked out and turned off all the lights and locked the door on his way out. When he got home, he called his girlfriend and asked her why her brothers left all the lights on and the door unlocked. She told Alex that her brothers have been home for a couple of hours already and that they made sure all the lights were off and the door was locked. This was when he got really freaked out because he said that as he was walking towards the home, he saw someone standing by the window looking at him. Another incident happened in that house. Lisa, the girlfriend's sister, was burning a CD and folding her laundry. She heard the door open and thought that someone had come home. This was when they were painting the house too, so there was a plastic sheet covering the carpet. She heard someone coming up the stairs because of the plastic and asked who was there. No one answered her though. Then she stopped what she was doing and went to look at the stairway. She didn't see anyone. She got really scared, and when her CD had finally finished burning, she got out of the house. After they moved out of the house, Lisa went to go live with her older sister. She had just gotten back from the laundry and had 2 baskets of clothes. She brought one basket to the stairs and went back to her car to get the other one. When she turned around, there was a little girl sitting on top of the basket by the stairs, staring back at her. Lisa blinked, and then the girl disappeared. I've heard this story a long time ago about a family moving into a new house in Stockton, California. The paranormal activity took place immediately when they moved in. It was on a Sunday evening when the excited family had arrived at their new home, and right after dinner, the parents made the kids go to bed early since tomorrow was going to be their first day at their new school. Everything seemed okay. The very next morning, the mom heard the bus pulling up and she thought to herself, "Wow, it sounds as if the bus is right in the house." Then she immediately thought that her kids were going to be late for school. She got up and looked around and noticed that she was sleeping outside in their front yard with her whole family, and everybody was naked. Yeah, it was pretty confusing and of course embarrassing. The father got very angry and ferocious about the incident, so he called up a shaman to investigate right away. They all soon found out that their new home sweet home used to belong to an old white man that built it after the Civil War with his own 2 hands. He's not interested in sharing it with anyone even after his passing. The shaman tried offering the spirits lots of money to buy the house from him, but it didn't work. He rejected it. The shaman tried to convince the spirit that it is dead and no longer living. The shaman urged for it to go and reincarnate, to go and start a new life, and that the shaman can help. But that didn't work either. He didn't believe in the shaman's words. Well, since they only rented the place for a temporary time, they moved out that very same afternoon to live with one of their relatives for a while before considering finding a new place of their own. I just want to add that digging a hole and putting some rice in it is a really good ritual to perform before purchasing or even if just renting a new house. That's a crazy story. Imagine waking up and you're naked in front of your yard. That is wild. A couple of Hmong kids were playing in their grandfather's room, just messing around and doing typical little kid stuff. One of the girls happened to glance at the open closet, the kind that had a sliding door. This was when they saw an old lady sitting on the ground, grinning at her. The girl thought to herself, why would Grandpa's lady friend be hiding in his closet and not out with the other grown-ups? However, she didn't really think much of it and decided to leave it alone. After a while, they all left the room. She asked her older sister if she had seen her grandpa's friend in the closet, and the sisters just looked at her like she was crazy. She told her younger sister that there wasn't anything or anyone in the room with them. They later found out that the grandpa had set an altar in his closet. One story that I had read that scared the crap out of me was about this girl who had shared a bunk bed with her sister. She slept on the top while her sister slept on the bottom. One night, she woke up and saw a young lady in white floating at the corner of her room. She got scared and pulled the covers over her head. A few weeks later, her sister was out of the house and one of her cousins was sleeping over. The girl slept on the bottom bunk while the cousin slept on the top. In the middle of the night, the cousin screamed and woke everybody up. She said that she was sleeping and woke up and saw a face staring at her. She didn't really think anything of it because she was still half asleep, but then realized that she was sleeping on the top bunk and that it wasn't possible for someone to be standing and to be eye level with her.